What's up everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today we're looking at Jurassic Green, which is a solar energy legendary pulse rifle that was reintroduced during Festival of the Lost this year. Now, even though the festival isn't running anymore, I'm a little bit late to the build guide for this weapon because I had over 40 of these to sort through and to try and figure out which version of this weapon is best for PvE and for PvP. Now, looking at our base stats here, this is a fairly mid pulse rifle with not really any interesting standout substats here. So you might be wondering to yourself, well, why the hell should I run this shit? Well, that's because the reissue of Jurassic Green this year has new trait 1s and 2s added into the weapon pool for this, which means that you can have fairly unique combinations on a pulse rifle specifically with this. And that's one of the reasons why I was so excited to farm this weapon and to get as many versions of it as possible so that I could see into building the perfect solar pulse rifle with this for PvE as well as PvP. Now, speaking of PvP and jumping right in, we're starting off with an arrowhead break on the barrel itself. What this is going to do is it's going to reduce our recoil by a huge amount, and it's going to give us a little bit of additional handling. It's fairly important that we try to crush the recoil on this weapon as much as possible because it has a huge amount of bounce intensity in the base version of it, and its recoil is kind of like all over the place. So whatever you can do to actually crush that down, and we're definitely going to do that with a combination of different things on this weapon, is going to help you out in the long run. We pair that with ricochet rounds in our magazine slot because we want the additional range that's on it. Again, range is one of the weakest substats on this weapon, and we also get some additional stability. Now, when we get to trait 1, you have a couple of options here. The two that I settled on, the two that I like the most out of all of the rolls that I got, is perpetual motion and rangefinder. Now, again, your mileage may vary with which one of those two you prefer. I do prefer perpetual motion because I do play, when I play PvP, I tend to play a more active jumping around shooting kind of, meta kind of way of moving. And especially in the way how PvP is right now, with everybody rocking sidearms and everybody being up in your grill the whole time, you will be moving around a lot to avoid these motherfuckers. And so you can get the benefit from perpetual motion rather from that. Now, we do pair this with golden tricorn in the second trait, which is a phenomenal second trait. I really love it. Basically what this does is final blows with this weapon gives you additional damage, and then also while that buff is active, your grenades or melees with the same damage type actually increase that damage and the duration of that buff even more. So since this is a solar, it means that if you are running a solar subclass and then are able to deal damage with those solar abilities, then you're actually going to benefit from even more damage from this, and it's really going to ramp up the amount of people, or rather the amount of shots that are needed to kill someone. So you'll be able to like double tap most people, and it's fairly consistent that way. Now, we pair this with Search Party in the Origin trait, and I say pair because it's not like we have choices here, but Search Party is great for those kind of like lone wolf playstyles. So generally speaking, if you peel off the pack and you kind of go by yourself to go secure an objective, or go by yourself to try and find some people around the backside, you are going to benefit from Search Party because this is going to give you faster ADS, and it's going to increase your movement speed while you are ADSing when you are further away than 15 meters from the nearest ally. We pair this with a ranged masterwork, again just addressing the second weakest stat on the weapon. Unfortunately, handling is the weakest stat on the weapon here, but our benefit to the overall experience with the weapon is more if we actually work on the range stat. And last but not least, we do put counterbalance stock on here, which again, when paired with arrowhead break, is going to crush that bounce intensity, that recoil of the weapon all the way down to almost non-existent, which means that your shots are going to be super accurate, and you're going to be able to control the weapon that much better. Then getting us over to the PvE side of this, we are going to be slapping in arrowhead break, still the same as we did on the PvP side. We do want to be dealing with most of that recoil that this weapon produces, and arrowhead break is super important for that. But on the magazine, we're going to differ, and we're going to put in high caliber rounds. High caliber rounds gives us a small amount of additional range, but it also does flinch on enemies. More specifically in PvE, it actually in a way allows you to stun lock miners, and since this is the main weapon that we're going to be using for trash clear, aka miner killing, this is going to help you to control those enemies a lot better. Now, in our first trait here, we take subsistence. Again, we have choices here. Killing Wind is also phenomenal. I definitely think that steady hands can also be a thing for some people, but absolutely subsistence here. What it's going to do is when you kill enemies, it's going to feed some bullets back into your magazine. So that means you'll be able to fight longer without having to do a full reload. And this again just feeds into the whole mechanic of this weapon being your trash clearing weapon. Now we pair that with incandescent, of course. This is a solar weapon, so if we can lean into incandescent here. Again, you have options here. You have golden tricon, you have a multi-kill clip, for instance, but incandescent on here is phenomenal simply due to the fact that you are pairing it with subsistence, which is feeding more bullets back into the weapon, which means you can deal out more shots and set more shit on fire with incandescent. Now paired with Surge Party here in our origin trait is not phenomenal because remember this is the PvE version of it, and generally in PvE people tend to kind of like stick together, so you're not really going to be benefiting from this. But in the cases where you are splitting and, you know, pushing different parts of the map, maybe, you know, you're going for one objective while, you know, the other two guys are pushing the boss, or, you know, something like that, you are actually going to be able to get that, because as long as you're further than 15 meters away from those other players, you'll benefit from Surge Party. We do slap in a range masterwork here, of course, because we want to be, you know, engaging from a little bit further, just increasing the lethality range of the weapon. And then last but not least, of course, on our weapon mod, we are using minor spec because this is our trash killing weapon, and so giving ourselves 8% more damage on that trash is absolutely awesome and definitely worth it. Then as usual, we have the one-shot screenshot cheat sheet for you with both the PvE and the PvP version of the weapon that we just discussed, so that you can take a screenshot and you don't have to keep coming back to the video. And that's gonna be it for the video. Thank you so much for watching, especially if you made it this far. I know that Festival of the Lost is over, so you can't really farm Jurassic Green anymore. However, I hope that you managed to stash some versions of this weapon during the event, and hopefully you have a decent role in there somewhere. Let me know if you have a different setup for this. I'd love to give it a try. I have a bunch more of these that I haven't deleted yet, so it's possible that I could have the variant that you are enjoying, and I'd love to give it a shot. But other than that, thank you so much for watching, especially if you made it this far. It's just super important to me that you have a fantastic morning, afternoon, and evening wherever you are in the world. And until next video, fucking cheers.
They want the best of me now, best of me now, best of me now, best of me. They want the best of me now, best of me now, best of me now, best of me.